Please go ahead, Armi.
Thank you very much. And hi, everyone, again. Um, yeah, so just to start, and I'll share my screen as well. But okay, so about the idea, how it emerged. So ever since TeensLIVE has been around, which was 2018, 2019, one of our main and priority themes has been gender equality and just addressing gender stereotypes as well as gender-based violence. So throughout these 6, 7 years, we've been very active in finding different ways to approach this kind of advocacy and fight against gender-based violence. And last year, we had this great opportunity to partner with UNAIDS and, of course, with UNESCO to work on a new approach toward combating and lowering gender-based violence in Armenia, which is to approach it from providing young men, especially, with a alternative that is positive masculinity. I'll talk a little more about how it is very context specific to Armenia. Um, but just before that, just to give you how the project was implemented, I'll start from the very beginning. This is the basic outline, and I'll talk a little about the focus groups and then the masculinity test itself, what recommendations we came down to with our experts, and the social media campaign, as well as the educational model. So to start with the goals, of course, we had three main goals in mind. That is redefining masculinity in Armenia, promoting emotional well-being, and challenging harmful stereotypes. And all of this, in the end, in the long term, to contribute to the fight against gender-based violence. So to shortly talk about the focus group that we implemented, we based our digital tests on the International Masculinity Test from 2022. This is UNFPA. And to adapt and to localize the test, we implemented two focus groups. So Yerevan is the capital city of Armenia, which has the highest population. That's why we had 11 young men joining from Yerevan, and then 13 young men joining from different regions of Armenia, almost all regions. This really just helped to, first of all, have diverse opinions on the topic, but as well as to have people who are from different parts of Armenia to talk about this issue, including a lot of young men were from, for example, rural areas as well. So based on the focus groups, we had a lot of recommendations from our experts, which you can find in the full report. But we took these recommendations and we developed a digital masculinity test. So we shared this test and distributed it on social media, of course, targeting young men from 16 to 25 years old. This was our target audience. And 1,946 individuals completed the test, from which only 50 responses were incomplete. That's why, so essentially it was about 1,900 young men from all over Armenia completing this test. And of course, we had different perceptions of masculinity because, first of all, we wanted to really try to find out what people and young men especially think about masculinity in Armenia, because unfortunately, we don't have any comprehensive data or continuous statistics on this. So that was a key for us. And of course, a lot of young men identified patriotism or financial stability, as well as respect or adherence to traditional gender roles as part of being masculine. But then a small minority of men who took the test thought of aggression or sense of superiority over women as also masculinity, which is exactly what we really try to combat through this project as well, to work with these harmful stereotypes and to promote the positive ones, the healthy ones. So we were pretty excited by, for example, this question that a lot of respondents thought that masculinity is never about, for example, beating their wife or being indifferent, selfish, never accepting alternative opinions or forcing their opinion. This was also a very important finding for us. Instead, these men thought that those who took the test thought that being physically and psychologically strong was very important as part of their masculine identity, being educated, cultured, and developed, as well as caring about everyone around. And again, we have patriotic, of course, given the context that we are working with, which is Armenia. And yeah, patriotism is a very important trait from childhood for men. So the respondents identified different things that they thought were these negative factors contributing to their development of masculinity. For example, the first one is harmful environment. That is the peer circle. And then bullying, negative behavior, relationships at school, wrong perceptions about masculinity as well. And we have family too. As a contrast, as a positive sense, masculinity, the respondents thought was positively expressed in family, but towards, for example, their wife or children and parents, and serving the fatherland again, right? The trait of patriotism here too, in different types of communication, in the workplace, toward nature, etc. This part was especially important for us because TeensLIVE is a digital media and we work with youth and teenagers. So we were surprised, but in a sad way, that although we, from our observations as well, have really observed that masculinity is portrayed in a negative way and a lot of harmful stereotypes are being reproduced by both traditional media and on social media as well. So the respondents also thought that masculinity was portrayed negatively or unrealistically, and that's why they did not want to follow these examples. So this was really important for us to take into consideration as our current year and also the rest of the last year's content plan was developed. So we too tried to share as many positive masculine role models and examples as we could. And we also encourage our colleagues from different other media platforms to do the same. Domestic violence as part of gender-based violence was important for us to really understand what this young men thought about if domestic violence was part of masculinity or not, and gladly they firmly rejected domestic violence as part of it. Instead, they thought that care and also power together, which of course there is a big contradiction, but they put these two together as part of their masculine identities. So with our psychologist, who is also specializing in gender-sensitive psychology, we've drawn a few practical recommendations. You can, again, find the full list in the report that we will link, I'm sure, at the end. So, of course, we would recommend first to amplify our message through education and awareness, to just continue talking about gender equality to different target groups of young men. That includes from 16 years old to 25 and older. Just talk about gender-based violence, talk about bullying, and how these are not part of quote unquote true or acceptable masculine image, and to instead encourage men to form healthy relationships, because that is really part of the healthy masculine and positive masculine approach. Then, of course, positive stories, which, as I mentioned, we did during the project, and I'll talk about it more later, but just try to provide role models and real life examples of how men can show their positive masculine attitudes and behavior in real life, because that really helps to kind of take from theory and bring in practice. And this especially applied to Armenia, because a lot of content in the Armenian language is not really widespread on positive masculinity, which may be the case, for example, for English or other more international languages. We also recommend doing and implementing more online, and if it is possible with resources, also offline events with men, because as much as we continue and it's big part of our job to empower women and girls, but at the same time, with a lot, if there's enough resources, it is very important to also invest in men's education and really just to try to hear them and also address their needs to kind of prevent this development of harmful stereotypes among men. We are also, of course, happy to both share the results and to try to contribute as much to the discussions of relevant draft laws and mechanisms that can help to prevent gender-based violence. Although we do have some legislations in Armenia, but there's always place to develop it and to both help the survivors of gender-based violence and also to just contribute to the prevention of it. And of course, lastly, periodically monitor the change. This is very important because the public perception of masculinity constantly changes. And we as well, after implementing this positive masculinity project, are also planning in the near future to really just go back and check as much as we can with people who either responded to test or just with our audiences on social media, if their perceptions of masculinity have changed more or no, but hopefully they have. So now a more fun part, which is the social media campaign. So we've during this project, we've launched a social media campaign called Create New Story. We, with our team and our designer, developed this character who was called Barujan. You can see him in the left comics. So, of course, harmful stereotypes as well as toxic masculinity differs from country to country. But in Armenia specifically, there's this one image of how young men should look like and how they should conform to different societal harmful expectations. So we thought we could take this character and show how this person can actually change if they want to. We did that through, for example, this series of comics that is available on our social media, where Barujan is actually showing how men can stand up against violence, how they can show different emotions, how they can be more caring instead of controlling, and so on. So this was just very both exciting and appealing to young men. And it was more engaging because on social media, that was the tricky part. We were trying to keep it as balanced as possible and give as much information, solid information as possible, but also to keep it engaging so that young men would continue with the educational model. Yeah, so our campaign was informative articles, again, delivered in a fun way, but also with different colors and visuals to help to keep the attention span. And we had this comics and we've collaborated with, I think I have it here. Yes, we've collaborated with 5 to 6 influencers in Armenia. We chose specifically those also male influencers who we thought would deliver our message the best way possible, because these men are also advocating for really healthy relationships among young men, and they also have wide audiences, mostly consisting of men. So, so we've collaborated with them. We've published collaborative reels on social media, as well as they have promoted the digital masculinity test. And as a kind of total result of the campaign, social media, we've had more than 800,000 views and impressions on social media, which was also something we're very proud of. And we're happy that the message got through. And just shortly about the education model. So, and the Telegram bot that we've created. So the logic of the campaign was to first engage young men to take the masculinity test, so that we could learn more about what they themselves think about masculinity, what they consider toxic or what they consider positive. And then based on the test, we've developed this educational model with our psychologists that is 6 articles and 6 podcasts. So we have both types of media, both audio and readable. And so, yeah, so after completing the test, this man would get a link to our Telegram bot that is an interactive way to engage with educational content. And then they would be able to pass this 6 podcasts and read optionally already the 6 articles that are on different topics. For example, starting with the very basics, right? What is masculinity? Why is men's mental health important? Why they should be able to access mental health support if they need it. Our psychologists also talked about gender-based violence, how it's never okay or never excusable, the importance of gender equality, changing gender norms, and of course, we finished the educational model with talking about healthy relationships, their importance, and just giving also maybe some practical tips on how to understand if your relationship is healthy or how to make it more healthy as a young man. So you can access the bot right now as well. It is in Armenian language, but you can access it scanning the QR. So after developing the educational model, we were trying to find ways how to make this module appealing to young men, because just publishing on a website or only on social media would not have been enough of motivation for them to, read or to listen to educational content. So we came up with the Telegram bot. It allows to, first of all, make it interactive, right? After this man join the Telegram bot, they can listen to the podcast, and then the bot kind of talks to them, as in sends short polls. And then if you answer all the polls correctly, and if you listen to all of the educational module, which is not very long, actually. I mean, it is 6 to 6, but 6 podcasts and 6 articles, but it is not long in itself. So after they've completed the whole module, we've also given them certificates, because we thought it would be a good, positive reinforcement for them to just continue with this message and to try to be more positive masculine in their lives. Yeah, so just as a description of the project, and yeah, if there's any questions or any specific things you'd like me to talk more about, I'll be happy to.